My brother paid a stranger to destroy my marriage and steal my life, and now that the truth is out, they expect me to care. The vibration of the phone against the granite countertop felt like a drill boring directly into my skull. It was a number I hadn't seen in 6 years, a sequence of digits I had forced myself to memorize just so I could block it, delete it, and scour it from my existence. My mother. It was 8 p.m. on a Tuesday, the time I usually spent helping my stepdaughter, Maya, with her algebra, but instead, I was staring at the screen as if it were a live grenade. My wife, Sarah, placed a gentle hand on my shoulder, her eyes asking the question she didn't need to voice. I didn't answer. I just swiped accept, put the phone to my ear, and listened to the sound of a woman weeping. It wasn't the soft cry of someone slightly upset, it was the guttural, heaving sobbing of someone whose world had just been incinerated. "We know," she choked out, her voice cracking under the weight of hysteria. "Arthur, oh God, we know everything." Julian admitted it. I didn't say a word. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel relief. I felt a cold, hard numbness spreading through my chest, the same numbness that had been my armor for the last 6 years. To understand why I hung up the phone without uttering a single syllable, you have to understand the day I died. Not physically, but the day the man I was ceased to exist. It happened 6 years ago on a rainy November afternoon. I had driven home early to surprise my wife, Elena, for our 25th anniversary. I had flowers in the passenger seat and a reservation at the Italian place she loved. When I walked through the door, the air in the house was heavy, suffocating. My 4 daughters, girls I had carried on my shoulders, taught to drive, and held through heartbreaks, were sitting on the living room couches, refusing to look at me. Elena was standing by the fireplace, her face a mask of cold fury. And there, sitting in my armchair, looking like the grieving saint, was my brother, Julian. Before I could even put the keys down, the ambush began. Elena didn't ask questions, she delivered a verdict. She threw a manila envelope onto the coffee table. It slid across the wood and spilled its contents. Screenshots of text messages, grainy photos of me entering a hotel room with a woman I barely recognized, and credit card receipts for jewelry I had never bought. They accused me of a year-long affair with a coworker, a temp named Jessica who had worked in my department for a few months. "I have no idea what this is," I had stammered, reaching for the photos. The man in the picture was wearing my coat, my hat. But the angle was obscure. "Elena, this isn't me. I've never been to this hotel. Don't lie to me," she screamed, a sound that shattered the last 25 years of trust. Julian saw the texts. "He tried to protect you, Arthur. He tried to get you to stop, but you wouldn't listen." I looked at Julian, my younger brother, the one I had bailed out of debt 3 times, the one I had helped get a job. He looked at me with sad, wet eyes and shook his head. "I couldn't lie for you anymore, Artie," he said softly. "Not when it's hurting Elena and the girls like this. You crossed a line." It was a masterclass in manipulation. Every denial I made was twisted into proof of my sociopathy. My daughters, who were aged 15 to 21 at the time, looked at me with pure hatred. "Get out," my oldest, Claire, spat at me. "You're disgusting." I was evicted from my own life in under an hour. I left with a duffel bag of clothes and the flowers I had bought, which I tossed into the gutter at the end of the driveway. I slept in my car for 3 nights before finding a cheap motel. I tried to fight it. I hired a lawyer, but the evidence was overwhelming. Julian had been thorough. He had created fake social media trails, spoofed numbers, and apparently he had coached Jessica perfectly. When my lawyer deposed her, she wept and gave vivid, graphic details of our alleged trysts. She claimed I promised to leave Elena for her. It was all a lie, every single word, but it was a lie told with conviction. The divorce was a blitzkrieg. I lost the house. I lost the majority of our savings. I lost custody of my youngest. But the hardest loss was my reputation. In our small town, I became a pariah. Friends of 20 years turned their backs in the grocery store. My parents, who had always doted on Julian, took his side immediately. "We are disappointed," my father had told me over the phone. But we are not surprised. You always thought you were better than everyone else. At least Julian has the decency to step up and take care of the mess you left. The mess I left was my wife. And Julian stepped up by moving into my house 2 weeks after I moved out. I moved into a studio apartment in a district where the police sirens were a nightly lullaby. I sat on a mattress on the floor, staring at the water stains on the ceiling, trying to process the efficiency of my destruction. I was 48 years old, and I had nothing. The final nail in the coffin came on Christmas Eve, 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized. I was sitting alone, eating a microwavable dinner, when my phone buzzed. It was a group text from my daughters. It was a photo of them, Elena and Julian, all wearing matching pajamas in front of the fireplace. My fireplace. Julian had his arm around Elena. They were laughing. The caption read, "Merry Christmas from our real family. Please don't contact us again. We have a dad who actually loves us now." That broke me. I blocked them all. I threw the phone against the wall, shattering the screen, and I cried until I passed out. But hitting rock bottom has a strange clarity to it. Once the hope was gone, the fear vanished too. I stopped trying to prove my innocence because I realized they didn't want the truth, they wanted the narrative. I focused entirely on survival. I got a job in a warehouse, heavy lifting that made my body ache but cleared my mind. I saved every penny. I read books. I started running. I rebuilt myself, not as the man I was, but as someone harder, quieter. 2 years later, I met Sarah. She was a nurse, a widow with a young daughter and eyes that had seen enough pain to recognize it in others. I didn't hide my past, I told her everything on our 3rd date. I expected her to run. Instead, she listened. She asked questions. And at the end, she took my hand and said, "I believe you. A liar doesn't carry his grief the way you do." We built a life. It wasn't flashy. We bought a small house 2 towns over. I became a bonus dad to Maya, careful never to overstep, just being there to fix her bike, cheer at her soccer games, and listen when she had a bad day. I found peace. Real, tangible peace. I stopped looking over my shoulder. I stopped hating Julian. Indifference is a much more powerful shield than hate. Hate binds you to the person, indifference cuts the cord. I hadn't spoken to a single member of my biological family in 6 years. I didn't know if my daughters were married. I didn't know if my parents were alive. I didn't care. Then came the call. After I hung up on my mother, I sat at the kitchen island, staring at the black screen. Sarah poured me a glass of water. "It's them?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, my voice sounding rusty. The truth came out. The story, as I pieced it together over the last 3 days from a barrage of voicemails and texts I finally stopped blocking, was almost comical in its pettiness. Jessica, the coworker/accomplice, had fallen on hard times. She had reached out to Julian for money, blackmailing him. Apparently, the agreed price for her performance 6 years ago was $15,000, but she wanted more to keep quiet. Julian, arrogant and now controlling my former finances, told her to get lost. So she went nuclear. She didn't just tell Elena, she showed up at the house with the original bank transfer records from Julian, dated weeks before the accusation. She had kept the emails where Julian scripted her testimony. She laid it all out on the dining table, the same table where they had destroyed me. Elena confronted Julian. He denied it for 3 hours, but the paper trail was undeniable. He finally cracked, screaming that he did it because he loved her, because I didn't deserve her, because he had always been the better man. My parents were there. My daughters were there. They watched the man they had replaced me with implode. Elena threw him out that night. He's currently staying at a motel, facing a divorce and potential fraud charges. Now the floodgates have opened. My father sent an email. "Arthur, we were blind. We were manipulated by a sociopath. You are our son. Please, let us fix this." Elena left a voicemail, her voice trembling. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I feel sick every time I think about how I treated you. Please just meet me for coffee. Let me explain. And my daughters, the girls who told me I was disgusting. The girls who sent that Christmas photo. They sent a text almost identical to the one that destroyed me, but this time the tone was desperate. Dad, please come home. We miss you. We were just kids. We were lied to. We want our dad back. I read the messages to Sarah last night. We were sitting on the porch watching the fireflies. Maya was asleep inside. Sarah waited for me to finish, then asked, "What do you want to do?" "I don't know," I admitted. Part of me wants to drive over there and scream at them. I want to ask them how they could turn off their love like a light switch. I want to ask my parents how they could disown a son based on the word of a brother who had always been jealous. I want to ask Elena how 25 years meant less than a handful of fake receipts. But, Sarah pressed, I look at this house. I look at you. I look at Maya. I'm happy here. I'm not that man anymore. That Arthur died in that studio apartment. The man who exists now doesn't fit in that old life. The anger I thought I would feel wasn't there. Instead, there was just a profound sense of exhaustion. They wanted absolution. They wanted me to come back and say, "It's okay, I forgive you," so they could sleep at night. They wanted to wash the guilt off their hands using my grace. But I don't have enough grace for that. This morning, I made my decision. I drove to the old house. I didn't go in. I just sat in the car across the street. I saw Elena's car in the driveway. I saw the swing set in the yard that my grandchildren, children Eve never met, play on. I saw my father's truck. They were all gathering, probably planning an intervention, a way to bring Arthur home. I looked at the house and felt nothing. No nostalgia. No longing. It was just a building where bad things happened to a man I used to know. I picked up my phone and typed a single message. I sent it to the group chat that included my parents, Elena, and my 4 daughters. I received the news. I am glad the truth is out, not for my sake, but because lies are heavy to carry. You asked to see me. You asked to apologize. You say you want your father and husband and son back. But that man doesn't exist anymore. You killed him 6 years ago when you chose to believe a lie over a lifetime of loyalty. You didn't just abandon me, you erased me. You replaced me. And when you did that, you freed me. I have a new life now. I have a wife who believes in me without needing proof. I have a daughter who knows I would never hurt her. I am happy. I will not be meeting you. I will not be coming to fix this family, because my family is here, in the home I built from the ashes of the one you burned down. Do not contact me again. If Julian causes you trouble, call the police, not me. I wish you peace, but I will not be the one to give it to you. I hit send. Then I blocked the numbers. All of them. I drove home, the real home. I walked into the kitchen where Sarah was making lunch and Maya was complaining about her history homework. I kissed my wife, sat down next to my stepdaughter, and helped her understand the causes of the French Revolution. My brother stole 6 years of my life. He stole my past, but he couldn't steal my future. And for the first time in a long time, the silence on my phone didn't feel like loneliness. Felt like freedom.